The stars looked different from the observation deck of the USS Intrepid. Captain Eric Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space. After 15 years of service in the United Earth Space Command, he had learned to find comfort in the void. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual signal." The voice belonged to Science Officer Olivia Wright, a brilliant woman whose analytical mind had saved the crew more times than Miller cared to remember. "Source?" Miller asked, turning away from the viewport. "Edge of the solar system, sir, near Pluto's orbit. It's unlike anything in our database." Wright's fingers danced across her console, bringing up visual data that flickered with strange patterns. Miller nodded. "Alert command. Set course to investigate. Yellow alert." The Intrepid changed direction, its engines humming with power as it moved toward the mysterious signal. In the command center, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. Communications specialist Greg Collins monitored incoming transmissions, while Security Chief Lisa Martinez ran diagnostics on the weapon systems. "Sir," Wright called out after several hours of approach, "I'm getting a visual now." The main screen activated, showing what at first appeared to be an asteroid. But as the Intrepid drew closer, the object's true nature became clear. It was a ship, sleek, with a metallic purple hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Definitely not one of ours," Martinez said, stating what everyone already knew. Miller felt his heart rate increase. First contact. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally found evidence they weren't alone. "Open all frequencies," he ordered Collins. "Standard greeting package." Collins nodded, his hands steady despite the historic moment. "Broadcasting now, sir." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Minutes passed like hours until finally the main screen flickered and changed. What appeared made several crew members gasp. The alien had a humanoid shape, but with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Its eyes, 4 of them arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked independently of each other. "Greetings," the alien said in perfect English, its mouth moving, in ways that didn't quite match the words. "I am Ambassador Zorax of the Vexari Confluence. We have been observing your world for some time." Miller stepped forward. "I am Captain Eric Miller of the United Earth Space Command vessel Intrepid. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our solar system." The conversation that followed was cautious but promising. The Vexari claimed to be representatives of a vast network of civilizations spanning several star systems. They expressed interest in cultural exchange and possible trade agreements. "We would be honored if you would join us aboard our vessel," Zorax said after nearly an hour of discussion. "A formal meeting between our peoples." Miller exchanged glances with Wright, whose slight nod indicated her support of the idea. "We accept your invitation," Miller replied. "I will bring a small delegation." After the transmission ended, Martinez approached Miller. "Sir, with all due respect, this seems rushed. We should wait for instructions from command." "Noted," Miller said, understanding her concerns. "But light-speed communications mean command won't respond for hours. This is why we're out here, Chief, to make these decisions when Earth can't." Within the hour, Miller had assembled his team himself, Wright for her scientific expertise, Collins to handle communications, and Martinez for security. They boarded a shuttle and approached the alien vessel, which opened what appeared to be a docking bay. The interior of the Vexari ship was both familiar and alien, corridors and rooms like human vessels, but with technologies that defied easy understanding. Lights pulsed along the walls in patterns that seemed almost alive. Zorax greeted them personally, leading them through winding passages to a large chamber with a circular table. Other Vexari waited there, their skin colors shifting through various hues as the humans entered. "Please be seated," Zorax said, gesturing to chairs that adjusted themselves to human physiology as the delegation approached. The discussions began well. The Vexari shared information about their society, a hierarchy based on cognitive abilities, with special respect for those with precognitive talents. They asked many questions about Earth, its governments, military capabilities, and colonial ambitions. Wright noticed at first a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The Vexari began communicating among themselves in clicks and whistles too fast for the translation software to process. "Captain," she whispered, "I believe we should—" She never finished her sentence. The lights in the room suddenly flashed bright red, and a high-pitched tone filled the air. Martinez reached for her weapon, but her movement seemed sluggish, as if moving through water. "Too unpredictable," Zorax said, now standing. "The simulations are clear. Your species cannot be allowed to spread further." Miller tried to stand, but found himself paralyzed. "What are you doing? We came in peace." "Peace is irrelevant when extinction is at stake," Zorax replied calmly. "Our precognitives have seen what humans become: unifiers, revolutionaries, liberators. You would undo the careful balance we have created." Collins managed to activate his emergency beacon before a Vexari guard struck him with a rod that crackled with energy. He collapsed to the floor, body convulsing before going still. Martinez broke free of whatever force held them, drawing her sidearm and firing at the nearest guard. The shot connected, causing the alien's skin to turn dark, gray as it fell. Before she could fire again, multiple energy beams hit her from different directions. She died instantly. "Stop this," Miller shouted, still struggling against invisible bonds. "This act will not go unanswered." Zorax approached him, head tilted in what might have been curiosity. "You misunderstand, Captain. There will be no one left to answer. Your ship is already being destroyed." Wright managed to activate her personal recorder, broadcasting on an encrypted emergency channel. Her eyes met Miller's across the room, a silent communication passing between them. If they were to die here, at least some record might survive. "Remember this moment," Wright said to Zorax, her voice steady despite everything. "Humans never forget. Someone will come for you." Zorax made a sound that might have been laughter. A meaningless threat from a species about to lose its memory. On the command ship, the Vexari directed energy weapons at the Intrepid. The human vessel, caught, unprepared, had no chance. It broke apart in silence. Its crew of 345 souls lost in an instant. Back on Earth, Admiral Paul Dixon sat in his office at UESC headquarters when an aide rushed in without knocking. "Sir, we've just received an emergency. Transmission from the Intrepid sector. You need to see this." The partial recording from Wright's emergency beacon played on Dixon's screen. The quality was poor, degraded by distance and interference, but the message was clear enough. The final words came from Zorax. "They're too unpredictable to be allowed to expand further into the galaxy." Then static. Dixon stood slowly, his weathered face hardening into something like stone. He had lost ships before, lost friends before. But never like this, never to an enemy that struck without provocation or warning. "Get me the Security Council," he said quietly, "and begin full information lockdown protocols." As the aide rushed to comply, Dixon stared at the frozen image of Zorax on his screen. "We do remember," he whispered. "And you'll learn what that means." 20 years had passed since the destruction of the USS Intrepid. 20 years of silence from Earth. 20 years during which the Vexari believed they had eliminated the human threat. They were wrong. Admiral Paul Dixon stood at the window of his underground office, looking at the vast facility that stretched before him. At 72, his hair had turned completely white, and deep lines marked his face. But his eyes remained sharp, focused on the promise he had made 2 decades ago. "Admiral, Dr. Bell is here to see you," his aide announced. Dixon nodded. "Send her in." Dr. Samantha Bell entered the room with quick steps. At 45, she was the leading scientist of Project Nemesis, Earth's secret response to the Vexari attack. Her brother had been a junior officer on the Intrepid. "We've done it," she said without greeting, placing a small device on Dixon's desk. "The quantum shield works. Their sensors can't detect it." Dixon picked up the device, no bigger than his palm, but containing technology that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. "You're certain?" he asked. "Absolutely. We tested it against the designs we extracted from their communication network. They won't see us coming." A cold smile formed on Bell's face. The loss of her brother had driven her work for 20 years. Dixon nodded. Begin installation on all vessels. Operation Shadow launches in 6 months. After Bell left, Dixon activated a secure terminal. The screen showed a map of known space, with red markers indicating Vexari presence. In the years since the attack, the aliens had expanded their territory, bringing 6 other star systems under their control. Reports from Earth's spy drones showed the Vexari presented themselves as protectors to other species while actually ruling them with strict control. They told stories about violent humans who had attacked without warning, lies to justify their actions. Dixon's terminal beeped with an incoming message. It was from Agent Kyle Warren, one of the few human operatives who had managed to infiltrate Vexari space. New information from Prison World 5, the message read. Captain Miller is alive. Repeat, Miller is alive. Dixon's hands trembled slightly as he read the report. Eric Miller, his former student and friend, had somehow survived the attack that killed his crew. For 20 years, he had been held prisoner on a remote Vexari world. According to Warren's report, Miller had spent his captivity gathering information and secretly teaching other imprisoned species about human history. Despite torture and isolation, he had never broken. Instead, he had pretended to be defeated while watching and learning. Dixon reached for the intercom. Get me Commander Ryan. Garcia now. On Prison World 5, a planet with toxic air and constant storms, Captain Eric Miller swept the floor of his cell. At 65, his body showed the marks of years of hard labor and occasional punishment. His hair had gone gray, and one eye was clouded from an injury that had never properly healed. But Miller's mind remained sharp. As he worked, he listened to the guards speaking in their clicking language. Over the years, he had learned to understand much of the Vexari speech without them knowing. New prisoners arriving tomorrow, one guard said. Another species that resisted integration. How many is that now? Asked the second guard. 7 major species under control, 4 in the process of integration. Miller kept his face blank, but his mind raced. 7 species enslaved, 4 more being conquered. And Earth. What had happened to Earth? For 20 years, he had received no news of his home planet. The Vexari claimed they had contained the human threat, but Miller refused to believe. Humanity had been destroyed. Later that night, in the darkness of his cell, Miller crawled to a loose stone in the wall. Behind it was a small hole where he kept his most precious possession, a journal made from scraps of material he had collected over the years. In it, he had documented everything he learned about Vexari technology, weaknesses, and atrocities. He also used the journal to teach other prisoners about Earth. Many evenings, in whispered conversations, Miller had told stories of human resilience, of times when humanity faced terrible odds but refused to give up. Humans never forget, he would tell them. Not kindness, not cruelty. We remember for generations. The aliens found comfort in these stories, especially the knowledge that humans had overcome their own divisions to form the United Earth government. It gave them hope that resistance was possible. Miller added new information to his journal, notes about guard rotations and the arrival of new prisoners. Then he returned the journal to its hiding place and lay down on his hard bed. We remember, he whispered to himself as he did every night. We always remember. On Earth, construction of the new fleet had been completed in secret underground facilities. The ships were smaller than the Intrepid had been, but faster and equipped with Dr. Bell's quantum shielding technology. Commander Ryan Garcia stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, the lead vessel of the new Shadow Fleet. At 38, Garcia was young for such a command, but his tactical brilliance had earned him the position. All systems check complete, reported his second-in-command. We're ready for launch. Garcia nodded. Prepare for departure. Operation Shadow begins in 15 minutes. In the launch bay below, final preparations were underway. Among the crew, boarding the Retribution was Lieutenant Kelly Miller, daughter of the supposedly dead Captain Eric Miller. She had been only 10 years old when the Intrepid was destroyed. Now she was 29, and determined to discover the truth about her father's fate. As Lieutenant Miller settled into her position at the tactical station, she touched the small photo she kept in her pocket, the last image taken of her father, before he left on his final mission. "Attention all crew," Garcia's voice came over the communication system. 20 years ago, the Vexari believed they had silenced humanity forever. Today we prove them wrong. Our mission is clear. Locate and free our people from Prison World 5, gather intelligence on enemy positions, and prepare the way for what follows. In his command center, Admiral Dixon watched as the Shadow Fleet prepared for departure. Dr. Bell stood beside him, her face showing both pride and anxiety. "Do you think they're ready?" she asked quietly. Dixon nodded. "They've trained for years for this moment, and they have something the Vexari can't understand." "What's that?" "Patience," Dixon said. "The kind that comes from never forgetting." The massive underground doors opened, revealing the night sky above. One by one, the ships of the Shadow Fleet rose silently into the darkness, their quantum shields making them invisible to conventional sensors. Operation Shadow had begun. After 20 years of silence, humanity was about to announce its return to the stars. Not with words, but with action. And somewhere in Vexari space, Captain Eric Miller continued his vigil, unaware that rescue was finally coming. The USS Retribution moved silently through the darkness of space. Its quantum shields, designed by Dr. Bell, bent light around the ship, making it invisible to Vexari sensors. Commander Ryan Garcia stood on the bridge, watching as they approached Prison World 5. "Status report," he ordered. "All systems normal," replied his navigation officer. "We'll reach the prison planet in 20 minutes. At the tactical station, Lieutenant Kelly Miller studied the scans of the planet's surface. Her heart beat faster as she thought about her father. Was he really alive after all these years? And if he was, what condition would he be in? "Lieutenant," Garcia said, coming to stand beside her. "Your team is ready?" Kelly nodded. "Yes, sir. 6 of our best, all equipped with the new stealth suits." "Good." Garcia lowered his voice. "I know this is personal for you, but remember, the mission comes first." "Understood, sir." Garcia returned to the command chair as the ship continued its approach. Operation Shadow was the first move in humanity's response to the Vexari attack. Its success would determine everything that followed. In his cell on Prison World 5, Captain Eric Miller sensed something was different. The guards were agitated, checking security systems more frequently than usual. Something had them worried. Miller sat on his bunk, appearing calm while his mind worked quickly. Had they discovered his journal? Were they planning to move the prisoners? Or was something else happening? A young guard approached his cell. "Prisoner 227, come with me." "Work detail." Miller stood slowly, his joints aching from years of hard labor. He followed the guard down the corridor, noting the increased security presence. Whatever was happening, it seemed big. As they walked past the command center, Miller caught a glimpse of the main screen. The Vexari were scanning space around, the planet searching for something. But what? The answer came sooner than he expected. Aboard the Retribution, final preparations for the rescue mission were underway. Lieutenant Miller and her team gathered in the launch bay, checking their equipment one last time. "Remember," she told her team, "this is extraction only. We get in, find our target, and get out. No heroics." The team boarded their stealth shuttle, a small craft designed for quick insertion and extraction. As the bay doors opened, Miller took a deep breath. After 20 years of wondering, she was about to learn the truth about her father. The shuttle launched, dropping quickly toward the Warrior planet's surface. Thanks to their quantum shielding, they passed through the Vexari security grid undetected. "Landing zone in sight," the pilot reported. "No sign they've spotted us." The shuttle touched down in a ravine 2 miles from the prison complex. Miller led her team out, their stealth suits activating as they moved. The suits, another of Dr. Bell's creations, absorbed light and sound, making them nearly invisible. "Move out," Miller ordered. "Stay in formation." They advanced toward the prison using the planet's constant storms as additional cover. The facility loomed ahead, a massive structure of dark metal surrounded by guard towers and energy fences. Miller consulted the data on her wrist computer. According to intelligence, the human prisoners are held in Block D. We'll enter through the maintenance tunnels. The team reached the outer perimeter without incident. Using a device that temporarily disrupted the energy fence, they slipped inside and made their way to a service entrance. The door opened with codes provided by Agent Warren. Once inside, they moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrol routes mapped out by months of surveillance. They reached Block D and prepared to breach the security door. "On my mark," Miller whispered. 3, 2, 1. Captain Miller was returning to his cell when the alarms began to sound. Guards rushed past him, weapons drawn. The young guard escorting him shoved him roughly against the wall. "Stay here," the guard ordered, then ran to join the others. Miller didn't move. Years of imprisonment had taught him when to act and when to wait. This was a moment for waiting. The sounds of energy weapons and shouting echoed down the corridor. Whatever was happening, it was getting closer. Miller tensed, ready to either fight or run depending on who came around the corner. 6 figures appeared, moving with military precision. Their suits seemed to shift and blur, making them difficult to focus on. They were nothing like the Vexari. They were human. The lead figure stopped suddenly, staring at Miller. The helmet retracted, revealing the face of a young woman. Her eyes, his eyes, widened in recognition. "Dad?" she whispered. Miller felt his legs go weak. "Kelly?" There was no time for a reunion. The other team members surrounded them as energy blasts hit the wall nearby. "Sir," one of them said to Kelly, "we need to move, now." Kelly nodded, her training taking over despite the emotional moment. "Captain Miller, can you run?" "I've been waiting 20 years to run," Miller replied, straightening his back. "Lead the way." The team moved quickly, heading back the way they had come. Miller noticed they were freeing other prisoners as they went, representatives from species he recognized as resistant to Vexari rule. They reached the maintenance tunnels, as the prison's main lights failed, part of the human attack plan, Miller guessed. In the darkness, they made their way to the exit and then across the open ground to the waiting shuttle. "Everyone in," Kelly ordered as more energy blasts lit up the darkness behind them. Miller helped the alien prisoners aboard, then climbed, in himself. The shuttle doors closed as the engines fired. Miller felt the familiar sensation of acceleration as they lifted off. "Retribution, this is Strike Team Alpha," Kelly reported. "Mission successful. We have the package and additional assets. Returning to ship." Miller looked around at the human soldiers and the alien prisoners they had rescued. After 20 years of captivity, it seemed impossible that he was free, that humans had come for him. One of the aliens, a tall being with crystalline skin that Miller knew as a Tholian, spoke in a voice like chiming bells. "The humans came," it said with something like awe. "Just as you said they would, Captain Miller, they remembered." Miller nodded, emotion making it hard to speak. "We always remember." Back on the Retribution, Commander Garcia received the news of the successful extraction with relief. As the shuttle docked, he made his way to the bay to meet the returning team. The doors opened, and Garcia saw Lieutenant Miller leading an older man, Captain Eric Miller, one of the most respected officers in Earth's history. Despite his age and obvious signs of harsh treatment, Miller walked with dignity. "Captain Miller," Garcia said, saluting. "Welcome back to the fleet." Miller returned the salute. "Thank you, Commander. It's been a long time." After medical checks and debriefing, Captain Miller met with Garcia in the commander's quarters. There was much to discuss. "The Vexari," Miller began. "They attacked us because they were afraid." "Afraid? Of what?" "Of what we would become." Miller's voice was steady despite his exhaustion. "They have precognitive abilities. They can see possible futures. In those futures, they saw humans uniting other species against them, breaking their control. They struck first to prevent that. Garcia frowned. So they attacked us because of something we hadn't even done yet. Yes, and in doing so they ensured it would happen. Miller smiled grimly. They fear humans specifically because we remember. We don't forget wrongs done to us, even across generations. And now? Garcia asked. Now we show them they were right. To fear us, Miller said, but not for the reasons they thought. Not because we're violent or unpredictable, but because we stand against those who would enslave others. As the Retribution turned back toward Earth, carrying its precious cargo of freed prisoners and vital information, the next phase of humanity's response to the Vexari was already beginning. The shadows of resistance were spreading across the stars, and at their heart was a simple truth: humans never forget. The news of Captain Miller's rescue spread quickly through Earth's hidden colonies. People celebrated the return of a hero long thought dead, but Admiral Dixon knew the real work was just beginning. In the main conference room of Earth Command, Dixon stood before representatives of the military and scientific divisions. Captain Miller sat nearby, still thin from his years in captivity, but growing stronger each day. The Vexari know we're back, Dixon said. The element of surprise is gone, but we've gained something more valuable. He gestured to the other side of the table, where 3 alien beings sat. A Tholian with crystalline skin that caught the light in rainbow patterns, a Nereid with blue-green scales and webbed hands, and a Ket, an insectoid being with compound eyes and delicate antennae. These representatives were among those rescued with Captain Miller, Dixon continued. They speak for species who have suffered under Vexari rule. They've come to offer alliance. The Tholian stood, its movements creating a sound like wind chimes. For generations, the Vexari have claimed to be protectors while making slaves. Of those they claim to protect. When they spoke of humans, they described monsters, violent creatures who attacked without cause. But Captain Miller showed us the truth during his captivity. Now we wish to stand with you against our common enemy. Dixon nodded. Thank you, Ambassador Crystal. He turned to the others. We need to move quickly. The Vexari will be preparing their response to our rescue mission. They've already begun, said the Nereid, whose name was Coral. Our spies report they are moving ships to protect their core worlds and increasing security on all subject planets. Dixon looked to Dr. Bell, who sat beside him. What's the status of our fleet? The quantum shields are installed on all vessels, she replied, and we've developed countermeasures for most Vexari weapons based on Captain Miller's intelligence. Good. Dixon turned to a tall, stern-looking man at the end of the table. Captain Kevin Howard, you'll lead our diplomatic efforts with potential allies. Commander Garcia will continue military operations. Howard nodded. Yes, sir. I'll work with the ambassadors to identify other species who might join our cause. The meeting continued for hours, planning the next phase of human resistance. As they spoke, ships were already moving, carrying messages of alliance to worlds under Vexari control. On the Vexari homeworld, High Commander Jexer received the news of the prison break with cold fury. As the son of Ambassador Zorax, who had orchestrated the original attack on humans, Jexer had been raised on stories of the dangerous species that threatened Vexari dominance. How did they survive? He demanded of his generals. My father assured the council they had been contained. The head of intelligence stepped forward, skin shifting to a nervous purple color. It appears they hid their time, High Commander. For 20 years they let us believe they were no threat while building new weapons and ships. And now they're freeing our prisoners and contacting our subject worlds, Jexer hissed. The precognitives warned us. They said humans would unite others against us. He turned to his military commander. Crush any world that shows signs of rebellion, make examples of them, and find the human fleet. I want it destroyed. Commander Garcia stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, watching as the newly formed Alliance fleet prepared for its first joint mission. Beside the human vessels were ships from the Tholian, Nereid, and Ket fleets, each designed for their species' unique needs, but now flying together under a common banner. Strange to think that just a month ago we were still hiding, said Lieutenant Miller, who had been promoted to tactical officer of the Retribution, After the successful rescue mission, Garcia nodded. Your father changed everything, not just by surviving, but by teaching others about humanity during his captivity. On the main screen, a transmission from Captain Howard appeared. He was on a diplomatic mission to a world called Proxima 4, home to a species known as the Centauri. Commander? Howard reported. Negotiations are going well. The Centauri have suffered under Vexari rule for over 50 years. They're eager to join the Alliance, but they fear reprisals. Their fears are well-founded, Garcia replied. We've received reports of Vexari ships destroying 3 worlds that showed signs of rebellion. We need to move faster. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from one of the Alliance ships. Commander Garcia, Vexari battle fleet detected entering the Proxima system. They must have discovered Captain Howard's mission. Garcia's training took over. Alert all ships, battle stations. Captain Howard, you need to evacuate immediately. Howard's face showed concern, but not fear. Too late for that. The Vexari ships are already in orbit. There are thousands of Centauri civilians here. Hold position, Garcia ordered. We're coming to you. The Alliance fleet moved quickly, jumping to the Proxima system using coordinates provided by Howard. As they arrived, they found a nightmare scenario. 5 Vexari battleships in orbit around Proxima 4, already beginning bombardment of the planet's surface. All ships engage, Garcia commanded. Priority is protecting the planet. The battle began immediately. The Vexari, surprised by the sudden appearance of the Alliance fleet, turned to face the new threat. Energy weapons flashed across the darkness of space. The humans' quantum shields provided an early advantage, allowing them to get close before the Vexari could target them. The crystalline Tholian ships reflected enemy fire back at the attackers, while the fast Nereid vessels darted between larger ships, firing precision strikes at vulnerable points. But the Vexari were powerful. Their largest ship fired a weapon that tore through 2 Alliance vessels, destroying them instantly. They've adapted to our shields, reported Miller as data flowed across her screen. They're recalibrating their weapons. Garcia made a quick decision. All Alliance ships fall back to defensive positions around the planet. We need to protect the Centauri while Howard completes evacuation. The battle continued for hours. Dimwell, Alliance fought bravely, but the Vexari pressed their advantage. 3 more Alliance ships were destroyed and the Retribution took heavy damage. Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, reported the damage control officer. Shields failing. Garcia looked at the tactical display. The Vexari flagship was positioning itself for a direct attack on the planet's capital city, where Howard and the Centauri government were located. There's only one option left, Garcia said quietly. Lieutenant Miller, you have command. Get the crew to escape pods. Sir? Miller questioned, suddenly understanding his intention. That's an order, Garcia said firmly. The Alliance needs experienced officers. You're needed elsewhere. As the crew evacuated, Garcia plotted a direct course for the Vexari flagship. With the engines pushed beyond safe limits, the Retribution accelerated toward its target. Garcia opened a channel to all Alliance ships. This is Commander Ryan Garcia of the USS Retribution. Remember this day. Remember what we fight for. He paused, then added, Humans never forget those who stand with us, just as we never forget those who stand against us. The Retribution slammed into the Vexari flagship at near light speed. The resulting explosion destroyed both ships and crippled 2 nearby Vexari vessels. In the confusion, the remaining Alliance ships were able to complete the evacuation of Centauri leaders and retreat from the system. The Battle of Proxima 4 was over. Commander Garcia was gone, but his sacrifice had saved thousands of lives and shown the Alliance something powerful. Humans were willing to die not just for their own kind, but for all who stood against tyranny. News of Garcia's sacrifice spread quickly through Alliance space. Species that had been hesitant to join now stepped forward, impressed by human courage and determination. In his office on Earth, Admiral Dixon received the report of the battle with a heavy heart. Garcia had been one of his best officers. But the commander's sacrifice had not been in vain. 3 more species had requested to join the Alliance, bringing their own ships and resources to the fight. The tide was beginning to turn. 3 years after Commander Garcia's sacrifice at Proxima 4, the Alliance fleet approached the Vexari homeworld. At the head of the massive formation was the USS Vindication, Earth's most powerful warship. On its bridge stood Admiral Paul Dixon, now in his 70s but still commanding respect from all who served under him. "Status report," Dixon ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "All ships in position," reported Lieutenant Kelly Miller, now promoted to first officer. "The Vexari fleet is moving to intercept." Captain Eric Miller stood at Dixon's side as chief advisor. Though his body still showed signs of his long imprisonment, his mind remained sharp and focused on the mission ahead. "They'll use their forbidden weapons," Miller warned. "They know this is their last stand." Dixon nodded. "All ships, activate bell shields." Throughout the Alliance fleet, the devices created by Dr. Samantha Bell hummed to life. They were designed to neutralize the Vexari's precognitive abilities, forcing them to fight without seeing the future outcomes of their actions. The space around Vexar Prime lit up as the battle began. Energy weapons flashed between ships while smaller fighters darted between the larger vessels. The Alliance fought with precision born from 3 years of warfare, while the Vexari fought with the desperation of those facing extinction. "High. Commander Jexer's ship identified," Miller reported, pointing to a display showing a massive Vexari command vessel. Dixon studied the tactical display. "Launch strike team." In the shuttle bay, a small team led by Kelly Miller prepared for the most dangerous mission of the war. Their goal: infiltrate the Vexari command center and capture High Commander Jexor. "Remember your training," Kelly told her team as they boarded the stealth shuttle. "We go in fast, complete the mission, and get out." The shuttle launched, protected by the chaos of battle as it approached the Vexari command ship. Using techniques perfected over years of operations, the team breached the enemy vessel and fought their way to the command center. There they found High Commander Jexor, his skin shifting between colors of rage and fear as humans entered his sanctuary. "You," he hissed at Kelly. "My father was right about your kind." Kelly kept her weapon trained on the Vexari leader. "Your father started this war by attacking us without cause." "Without cause?" Jexor laughed bitterly. "He saw what you would become. This moment, humans bringing retribution. He foresaw it all." A communication screen activated showing Admiral Dixon on the bridge of the Vindication. "High Commander Jexor," Dixon said formally. "Your forces are defeated. What remains is the matter of justice." Jexor's skin darkened. "What do you want? Our complete surrender? Our extinction?" "Neither," Dixon replied, surprising the alien leader. "We want justice, not vengeance. You and your leadership will stand trial before representatives of all affected species. Your people will live, but under laws that protect all sentient beings." Jexor stared in disbelief. "After all we've done, you offer justice instead of extinction?" Captain Miller stepped into view beside Dixon. "That's the difference you never understood. Humans remember both the good and the bad. We remember those you killed, but we also remember who we are. We won't become what we fought against." The war ended not with genocide, but with the birth of something new. The Galactic conquered, an alliance of equals with humanity as its cornerstone. The Vexari, stripped of their empire but allowed to live in peace, began the long process of making amends under new leadership. 1 year later, Dr. Bell and Lieutenant Miller visited Captain Miller at his home on a reclaimed colony world. They walked together to a monument listing the names of those lost on the USS Intrepid and in the wars that followed. Captain Miller touched the engraved name of Commander Ryan Garcia, who had given his life at Proxima 4. "We remembered them all," Miller said quietly. "The good and the bad. That's what makes us human." As the sun set on the monument, the stars began to appear. Stars now filled with worlds where beings of all kinds lived together in hard-won peace, remembering the war that had united them and the humans who never forgot.